Tim Flannery, our guest. He's an internationally recognized field zoologist. He's discovered how many species?
About 40. It's quite a lot.
40 species?
Living mammal species, yeah.
And a couple tree kangaroos?
4 tree kangaroos.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
You go out to remote mountain ranges that no one's really surveyed in before, and you spend weeks camping in the bush looking for these animals. It's a young man's game though, Fanny, I can tell you. I'm getting a bit old for it now.
Right, but how did you get into it? Where did all this begin for you?
Well, I was lucky enough to get a job in a museum in Australia called a Curator of Mammals, and as part of that job I was expected to go out and investigate the region's mammals, and so the areas that interest me were really the remote Pacific islands, places like Papua New Guinea. And, you know, when I first got up there, I realised there was just a whole lot of animals that had never been seen before. Strangely enough, the small animals, the rats, many of them had been described because early collectors went out with rat traps and things, but they didn't have the trust of the local people. And to see the big animals, you need help from local people. I was fortunate enough to be able to go into villages, befriend, you know, really good hunters, the older men of the village who would take me out and help me see these animals. So that was a key to success. Yeah, and we found it was a metre-long rats that had never been seen by science before, and tree kangaroos the size of Labrador dogs, just waiting to be discovered.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, it is. I was astonished myself. I really thought I would perhaps only be fortunate enough to describe 1 or 2 little rats and bats when I started, but realised there was this whole fauna there that was just waiting to be seen. Yeah.
But as you know, humans tend to fiddle. Yes, we do.
We do.
So we introduced a fox to Australia that's not supposed to be in Australia. I don't know how the fox got to Australia. The wrong fox.
No, it was just fox hunting. People love the old British sport, you know, of hounds and foxes and all that sort of stuff. So that's how it came to Australia, and it has been devastating. Yeah.
How so?
It has, you know, eaten its way through an entire fauna. Anything that can fit in a fox's mouth is you know, on the verge of extinction, and that's because the animals in Australia weren't used to being hunted by foxes, and so they had no fear response to the smell of a fox or the sight of a fox. The fox would simply come up and kill one after the other. We've had examples of a single fox killing 100 individuals of an endangered species in one night. They'll just go along snapping them all, and then, you know, eat what they can and bury the rest.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's
We've seen it in squirrels, too. Here, we used to have cute little red squirrels, and now we have a lot of big, funny black ones. So I don't know how that came about, but man and humans, we fiddle.
We do.
We bring plants to places they shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Well, that's right. And look, a lot of it, we are immensely powerful beings on the planet, there's no doubt. We're influencing the atmosphere now and the oceans. I mean, that is huge power. But we have acted in ignorance so often in the past, and that's where the damage has come from.
So the acidification of the ocean, you believe it's happening?
Oh, we can measure it. It's happening. Yeah.
What about the naysayers who say, you know, none of this is happening. It's just Mother Nature. We don't really have man-made climate change. It just, things get hot, they get cold.
Those people don't have the respect for the experts that's really required. You know, we need a little bit of humility in dealing with this. It's a bit like going to a doctor and the doctor saying, look, you've got an illness, even though you may feel fine now, you need some treatment. Sure, you can go to 100 doctors and maybe one will say, you're fine, go away. But taking that diagnosis is irresponsible, and turning your back on the accumulated body of science that now is so supported globally is irresponsible. And we need to listen to the experts on this. They're telling us we've got a problem, and we need to act on it.
So tell me about these hypotheses. Is it Median?
Median hypothesis, that's right. And that is a scientific idea developed by a paleontologist from Seattle called Peter Ward. And he believes that life is inherently dangerous to life, that life destroys its own success, if you want. And he says if you look back on Earth history for the last billion years, most of the great extinction events were caused by life becoming so successful that it disturbed this carbon dioxide balance in the atmosphere, that disturbed the ocean circulation, and then you have a huge extinction event. And he says that what we're seeing right now, this 6th extinction event, as he calls it, that people are precipitating through the greenhouse gases, is simply a continuation of that trend. So he's a very dismal hypothesis, sort of in a dog-eat-dog world. You know, we either destroy or are destroyed, and it's very dark.
No more dinosaurs, and one day no more humans. Is that what he's saying?
Essentially, although he says the dinosaur extinction was caused by an asteroid, but every other major extinction was like that.
Right. Now the Gaia.
Yeah.
Gaia means Earth? Gaia means
That's
what?
right. It's the ancient Greek word for the Earth, the planet as a whole. And you know, James Lovelock, when he developed this hypothesis, just pointed out that our Earth does regulate itself. You know, that nothing much comes into it but sunlight, nothing much but heat goes out of it, and the whole system is run on that. And at the surface of the planet, conditions are maintained such that life can prosper.
Okay, because we're not burning too many fossil fuels, or why?
It's just the way the system has evolved. Evolution by natural selection has created this entity that self-regulates. He makes a simple point, you know, that the surface of the Earth should be the same temperature as the surface of the Moon. We're the same distance from the Sun. Moon is minus 15 degrees, Earth plus 15 degrees, because there's just the right amount of greenhouse gases to keep the Earth warm enough for life to flourish.
That's interesting. It's like our bodies. If we have the right pH balance in our bodies know how to heal themselves.
Yes.
If we don't, if our bodies acidify, then it's more likely we'll get a cancer or some dread disease.
Yeah, exactly. And the pH issue is a really good one. The oceans have the right pH for life to thrive.
The plankton and all.
All of that. And now we're interfering with that by acidifying the ocean, and that will have consequences just like it does in your body.
Tell me about neem. M-N-E-M-E.
Yeah.
You write about it in Here on Earth.
I do. I found it so fascinating because, you know, Richard Dawkins was one of the people who talked about this. He said that really there's a similarity between genes and memory, human memory. It's an idea that goes back a long way. And the Germans in the 1920s coined this word meme for memory. But they say there's a genetic memory, it's what DNA does when it reproduces, and there's human memory. And both of those kinds of memory are subject to evolution by natural selection. So genes are selected for, but also memory reproduces and can be selected for. Some sorts of ideas spread more quickly than others. And there's mutations in ideas like Chinese whispers, you know, also that spread. But the reason I was attracted to that particular sort of way of thinking about things is that what we believe is now becoming so critically important to our future. If you believe you live in a survival of the fittest world where you need to grab what you can now, otherwise someone will grab it from you, we will go down a Median path. We will go down a path where we'll destroy the planet. If you believe that we can actually thrive by a cooperative process, working together to bring stability to the planet, we'll have a great future.
What I hear you saying under this is, in spite of anything, we're cellularly connected. Our genes are connected. We're connected to everything and everyone, to the worms and the stars and...
Yeah. And ever more so. You know, a century ago, an earthquake in Japan, you might have taken months to hear about it in Europe. Now we know about it instantly, and we feel its impacts instantly as well. And money flows, and we have this tremendous empathy now where we hear about a natural disaster, money flows from around the planet to help those people. That's new,
right?
You know, and that's a cause for immense hope, I think.
Well, and as we waste resources and we kill species, and innocent bystander species are killed because of us, and we pollute the air and do all of that. We're not helping. We're
not, and we now know it's wrong, and we can now measure it globally, and we know that we need to face the consequences. I think humanity's, it's sort of like we're growing up. I remember when my kids were teenagers and I showed them the electricity bill to the house. They got their back up against the wall and said, well, so that's not us. And I said, actually, it is you guys, and we have to take responsibility for it. Humans are almost in that position now as a species. We can see this, and we need to act.
And we're smart machines, so you would think we would not wage a war against nature. I mean, why would we?
It's like waging a war against your own body, and yet people have done it in the past. After the Second World War, you know, there was this idea that we had immense power. We'd unlocked the secrets of the atom. We knew about chemical weapons in warfare, and people did declare war on nature. They used DDT and those sort of wartime innovations to try to exterminate all of the pests in the world, and that doesn't work. You know, it never does. All you do is disrupt the ecosystem, and it is the foundation for prosperity, for global prosperity.
One of your phenomenal books was The Weather Makers. Won many awards. When you see what's happening in the southern United States today, the worst tornadoes they've had for many, many years, and almost 300 people or more dead, what do you think's going on? Well, what runs through your mind, the mind that knows?
Well, the first thing, I just feel immensely sorry for those people whose lives have been so badly disrupted. But what I recognise is that these sort of events is what climate scientists have been predicting now for a number of years. Now, I don't think anyone's linked those tornadoes to the warming climate. And scientists, particularly climate scientists, are very conservative, and they may not have the data yet to be able for that to happen. But what we see in places like Europe, where the weather data is much better and goes back centuries, is that they are now linking extreme weather events like flooding in Wales in 2000 with the shifting climate. And with that brings increased legal liability. So again, we are facing the consequences of our actions.
So as we read Here on Earth and other people buy Here on Earth, what is the message, the bottom line you want us to take home?
The bottom line is that we are going to be the deciders. This decade, next and the next, are going to really decide whether we have a prosperous future or whether we crash and burn. And it's in our hands. It's going to take hard work. Don't jump from ignorance to despair. That's the lazy person's way of dealing with the issue. We've actually got to get engaged and make the right changes.
Yes, I like that, because you're not doom and gloom, but you are casting a warning.
Yeah.
Yes, and you'll be lecturing.
I shall.
Tonight at 8 p.m. at the Chan Shun Concert Hall at UBC.
Yeah.
How nice to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Thanks,
Fanny.
Tim Flannery.